Every survival list ever written tells you to pour hydrogen peroxide in a cut. That's the one piece of advice modern wound care has taken back. And in a deep one, it has killed people. A $1 brown bottle against a $300 trauma kit somebody sold you, and the bottle's already in the bottom of your pack with the label gone soft and the cap ringed white. There are 25 of these. Number 13 is the one the federal government keeps a file on. Number 25 isn't a trick at all. Nobody lied to you about any of this. A company with a $40 antiseptic kit to move isn't going to open with waterworks about as well. And a list pulling 200,000 views off advice written before either of us had internet isn't going back to check whether it held. Nobody has to conspire. They only have to not look it up. And they haven't in 30 years. Now, the word in the title. Nothing here is illegal. The bottle under your sink is legal in all 50 states. And below 8% by weight, there's no shipping rule on it at all. You could mail it in a shoebox. That's me killing my own thumbnail in the first minute. Not illegal, regulated. And once you see what it's regulated as, you'll understand why every list on the internet says stay at 3% without ever saying why. Here's the shape of it. Peroxide kills living film sitting on a surface. Bacteria, mold, the slick you can feel with a finger inside a jug that's been in the truck bed since spring. That's the whole trick. And it's been the whole trick since before either of us was born. It doesn't purify your water. It doesn't treat a snake bite. It doesn't belong in a puncture wound. And it won't save you from anything already inside you. Comment below with what's actually sitting in your kit right now. The brand, the percentage, how old the bottle is, where it's been stored. I'll tell you whether it's still alive or whether you've been carrying water with a label on it. First 5 are about the bottle, because if it's dead, the other 20 don't matter. Number 1, and this is why half the people who try any of this swear it doesn't work. Go get your bottle. Slice a potato, or use a drop of blood off a thumb, and pour a capful on it. If it climbs up white and hisses, it's alive. If it lays there flat, you've been carrying water with a label on it. 10 seconds. You can run it before this video's over. But that only tells you about the bottle in your hand. Says nothing about the one in the truck. Number 2. The bottle in your bug-out bag is the deadest bottle you own. Sealed, it holds about 3 years. Crack the seal and you're looking at 1 to 6 months, 6 being the good end, stored cool and dark, which a pack behind a seat is not. It falls apart into water and oxygen on its own? Opening it just gives it help. The bottle you packed 2 deer seasons ago and never touched is water. Rotate the kit bottle first and the bathroom bottle last, which is backwards from how everybody does it. Number 3. There's a reason it comes in brown plastic and not a clear jar. Light tears it apart. So does heat, and so does the grit that falls in when the cap's off. Because grit is a catalyst, it speeds the reaction and never gets used up. Keep it in the bottle it came in. Cool, dark, closed. A root cellar shelf is about perfect. A windowsill is the worst. Number 4, the trap. Thinking stronger is better. 3% is the working strength, not the beginner strength. Everything in this video works at 3, and going up doesn't buy a better result, it buys a burn. 35% whitens skin instantly, because oxygen is being made underneath the surface of your hand. In an eye, it can blind you, and any strength in an eye is 15 to 20 minutes under running water, not a rinse and a blink. Number 5. Food grade isn't food, and the rule people cite to prove it proves the opposite. The regulation that lets peroxide near food allows it from 0.04% up to about 1.25%, then requires the leftover be taken back out before the food is sold. Read that again. Even where it's permitted as something that has to be removed. 35% is more than 10 times the drugstore bottle, and swallowing it burns you from the inside. Those 5 were about whether you own a live bottle. These next 5 actually work, and none of them are exciting. Number 6, the camp kitchen, the best nailed down number in this whole video. Straight 3%, undiluted, on the counter, the dishes, the board. Then left alone 10 minutes. 10, not a wipe, wet the whole time. That takes out E. coli and salmonella. Warm it to about 130 degrees first, and 1 minute does the same job and gets listeria besides, which the cold version doesn't. Limit. The board has to be clean before it can be sanitized. Grease and blood eat the oxidizer before it reaches anything living. Number 7. Blood on a sleeve, and the one thing that sets it forever. Cold water. Cold, first, before anything. Warm water cooks the protein into the fiber and it's never coming out. Rinse cold, rub in bar soap, rinse again, repeat. Then lay 3% on what's left for 1 to 3 minutes and rinse it through. Here's the mechanism, because it pays off later. Blood carries an enzyme called catalase. Catalase rips peroxide into water and oxygen instantly, and the foam lifts hemoglobin out of the weave while the oxidation bleaches what's left. Remember catalase. Limit: peroxide is a bleach. Test an inside seam and see if the color comes with it. Number 8. The jug, the cooler, the bladder, and where people quit too early. Hard surfaces, it handles fine. Slosh it around inside the jug, let it sit, dump, rinse. Same for a cooler that's been shut all summer. But a hydration bladder with mold in it isn't a peroxide problem, it's a drying problem. Baking soda and warm water, half an hour, hand wash, then prop the thing wide open with a wire hanger in a dry room. Trapped moisture grew it? That gets the container clean. It doesn't make the water inside it safe. That's number 21. Number 9. Treat the boot, not the foot. Spray 3% inside both boots, 5 minutes, then get them genuinely dry. Not stove dry, which cracks leather. You're killing what lives in the lining so you don't reinfect yourself every morning. Boots that never dried out after a wet October are how this starts. And peroxide does nothing for the foot, it won't cure the fungus, and it irritates skin that's already raw. Number 10. Gear stink. 1 part peroxide to 2 parts baking soda. Worked into a paste, laid on in 2 thin coats, dried, brushed off. Canvas, boot uppers, pack straps. On a mildewed tent, the useful thing is what not to reach for. Chlorine bleach eats the stitching and strips the waterproof coating off the fly, and it only takes the stain color out. The spores stay. Peroxide is the gentler oxidizer. Nobody who makes tents recommends it by name, so call it what it is. Better than bleach, blessed by nobody. Now the part people mean when they say this stuff is illegal. Number 11, the number that makes half the sanitizing tips on the internet meaningless. The validated limit for a peroxide wash on fresh produce is 59 parts per million. 59, about 6/1000ths of 1%. The bottle in your hand is 3%, 500 times stronger than what the people who wash vegetables for a living are held to. So splash some peroxide on your greens isn't a weaker version of a protocol. It's a different activity, wearing the same word. Surface sanitizing wants it strong and slow. Food contact water wants it nearly absent. Opposite directions, and nobody in a camp is measuring either. Number 12, 8%. Under 8% by weight, there's no hazmat rule on shipping peroxide at all. It travels like shampoo. Hold on to that line. Number 13, the big one. The one with a federal file and a 400-pound number on it. Above the 8% line from 12, it starts getting classified. 8 to 20, it picks up a unnumber and a hazard class as an oxidizer, bottom tier, minor danger. 20 up to 60, which is where 35% food grade sits, it becomes UN-2014, hazard class 5.1 with a corrosive subsidiary, packing group 2, oxidizer and corrosive. Above 60, top tier. Here's the part you can verify on a retail listing this afternoon. Sellers advertising 35% food grade will tell you right in the product title that they've diluted it to 12% for shipping. 12. Not because 12 is better for you, because 12 gets it onto a brown truck without a hazmat placard. The whole commercial category is engineered around a regulatory line, and they print it on the label. Then it goes past shipping. At 35% and up, hydrogen peroxide is listed by the Department of Homeland Security as a chemical of interest, specifically as an improvised explosive device precursor flagged for theft. The screening threshold is 400 pounds. Hold that much and you're supposed to file paperwork saying so. 400 pounds, 4 barrels. That's the actual checkable kernel underneath the word in the title. And notice what it isn't. It isn't a ban. It isn't a purchase restriction. There's no law in this country against the bottle you own, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise to keep you watching. not illegal. Regulated, hazmat placarded, and sitting on a federal list of things people build bombs out of. There's a difference, and it's worth 20 minutes of your evening. If that changed how you think about what's in your bag, subscribe. We do one of these a week. Number 14, the grade that sank a submarine. Take it to 85, 98%, and it stops being a chemical and becomes propellant. Run it across a silver catalyst and it doesn't boil. It comes apart into steam and oxygen with no liquid water left, north of 600 degrees Celsius. That's an engine. It flew a rocket fighter in the war. It ran torpedoes, and one of those went off inside a Russian submarine in the summer of 2000 and took it down with 118 men aboard. Iron and copper are flatly incompatible with it. The reaction may hold off for seconds, then go. A steel can is a timer. There's no project in this. No fire-starting trick, because there isn't a responsible one. Number 15. And here, I'll be fair to it. All that regulatory weight is exactly why 3% is what you carry. The boring brown bottle isn't the compromise version, it's the point. It's the dilute tail end of a genuinely industrial oxidizer, sold at the one strength that does surface work without doing damage. And if your bottle failed number 1, none of the last 9 things happened anyway. 5 for around the place, the garden, the birds, and your own mouth. Number 16, old seed. Seed that sat in a jar in the cellar 3 or 4 winters comes up poor, and a peroxide soak helps. 1% for 30 minutes, or your straight 3% for about 20. It works best on old seed and least on fresh, which is the opposite of what people assume. Real limit. Too strong or too long reduces germination. Doubling it doesn't double anything. Set a timer and rinse. Number 17. Poison ivy and peroxide is the wrong tool entirely. Urushiol, the oil in the leaves, the roots, and the bare winter vines, binds into your skin somewhere in the first 30 to 60 minutes. That window is the whole game. You need something that dissolves oil. Soap and water, scrubbed and rinsed, or rubbing alcohol followed by a water rinse. Peroxide doesn't dissolve oil, so it does nothing. And the specialty cleanser isn't meaningfully better than dish soap. Past that hour, you're not decontaminating anything. You're waiting it out. Number 18. The coop floor in February. There are peroxide-based disinfectants labeled for poultry, and they're legitimate, but the sequence is everything. Scrape first. Get the manure and the bedding out before the disinfectant goes down, because organic matter neutralizes an oxidizer before it reaches anything you care about. That's the ppm problem from 11, wearing barn boots. Then apply, give it contact time, and expect to do it twice. And don't fog the building with the birds in it. There's at least one finding out there that nebulized peroxide left chickens more susceptible to a nasty E. coli, not less. Number 19 is the one I'm not giving you a number for. Powdery mildew on the squash and the cucumbers. Gardeners swear by a peroxide spray, and you'll find 4 different dilutions on 4 different pages, every one stated with total confidence. Not one of those numbers has ever been checked by anybody whose job it is to check, so there's no ratio coming. Full strength 3% burns the leaves, and that's the only part anybody agrees on. An item where the honest answer is nobody's checked beats 3 items with made-up numbers. Number 20. The abscessed tooth on a Sunday. 40 minutes of gravel road from anywhere. Half water, half 3%. Swish 1 minute. 4 times a day at most. Never longer than 2 minutes at a stretch. Never swallowed. Past 2 minutes at full strength, you get chemical burns in your mouth. Rinse it undiluted regularly and you can grow black hairy tongue, which is exactly what it sounds like. This is a stopgap. It takes the edge off. It doesn't treat the infection. An abscess is a drainage and antibiotics problem, and it won't resolve because you gargled at it. Get down the mountain. Last 5 are the ones that get people hurt. Number 25 killed somebody. Number 21, it isn't a water purifier, and this is the one that will actually make you sick. Count what's on the official emergency water list. Boiling, unscented household bleach, calcium hypochlorite, 2% tincture of iodine, commercial tablets. Hydrogen peroxide isn't on it. Not as a backup, not as a footnote. It's absent, and the absence is the answer. It leaves no residual protection, and it breaks down in light and heat every condition a canteen lives in. Real numbers. Rolling boil, 1 full minute, 3 minutes above 5,000 feet. Or 8 drops of 6% bleach per gallon and wait half an hour. Peroxide cleans the jug, that was number 8. It doesn't clean what goes in it. Number 22, snake bite, and the whole folklore stack in one breath. Peroxide does nothing for a bite, because the venom isn't sitting on your skin. It went into the tissue and the lymph the second the fangs came out. Neither does cutting it, neither does sucking it, neither does a tourniquet, which costs people limbs. And not ice. Ice can make the venom worse and hide the symptoms somebody needs to see. What you do is boring. Keep them calm, keep them still, keep the limb about heart level, and drive. Getting to anti-venom fast is the only thing on that list that has ever saved anybody. Number 23. Ticks, leeches, and stingers. 3 animals, 1 rule. Anything that irritates a feeding creature makes it worse. A tick that gets peroxide, or a match, or petroleum jelly may back its stomach contents into you on the way out. So, fine tip tweezers, as close to the skin as you can get, steady, even pull. No twisting, no jerking. That's how the mouth parts stay behind. Clean it after with soap and water or alcohol. I've pulled more ticks off a dog than I can count, and it's the same motion every time. A leech. Slide a fingernail under the narrow head end, break the suction, flick the back end off. Left alone, it drops off on its own in 20 to 45 minutes anyway. A stinger. Scrape it sideways with a fingernail or a card edge. Never tweeze it. You'll squeeze the sac and inject the rest of the dose. Number 24. The thing every survival list on Earth tells you to do. Pouring peroxide in a cut is no longer recommended. Not controversial, not debated. Taken back. There's no evidence any antiseptic irrigation beats plain drinkable water. Out of 715 wounds, tap water came in at 4% infected and sterile saline at 3.3, which is the same number wearing a different hat. And the foam isn't germs dying. Peroxide kills fibroblasts, the cells that migrate in to close the wound. It slows the thing. It's supposed to help. I poured peroxide in every cut I got for about 20 years. Foamed it up, felt like it was working. It was doing something. It was killing the cells trying to close the hole. The modern answer is water clean enough to drink, pushed in under pressure. A 60cc syringe with a plastic catheter tip is the field version, and if your water's questionable, a 1% iodine solution instead. Then cover it and watch it. Cheaper than what I was doing, and it works better. Number 25, and this one isn't a trick, it's a rule. Never in a deep wound. Never in a puncture. Never in anything closed that can't drain back out. Here's why, and it's the same catalase from number 7, except now it's inside you instead of on a shirt. Your tissue is full of it. Peroxide hits it and becomes oxygen gas instantly, and in a puncture that gas has nowhere to go but into the blood. Bubbles block vessels. That's a gas embolism, and it happens in seconds. A 31-year-old woman had about 200 milliliters of ordinary 3%, same strength you own, same kind of bottle, flushed into an abscess cavity during surgery. She arrested on the table. The right side of her heart filled with gas. She never woke up. She died on the 7th day. 200 milliliters, less than a soda can. That's not a dosing error with an exotic chemical. That's the household bottle, used the way the internet has been telling people to use it since the 1980s, in the one place it must never go. And a hog gore, a broken laurel branch through the calf, a dog bite, those are exactly the wounds a man out here actually gets. Here's the thread through all 25. Peroxide isn't medicine, and it isn't water treatment. It's a cheap oxidizer that kills living film sitting on a surface. A board, a jug, a boot, a seed, a stain. Everywhere it works, it's working on a surface. Everywhere it fails, somebody tried to make it work on you. Nobody had to lie to you about that. They only had to not look it up, and they haven't. If you keep one thing out of 25, keep number 25. Not in a puncture, not in a deep one, not in anything that can't drain. The oxygen has to go somewhere, and if it can't come back out of the hole, it goes into the blood. Total cost of everything on this list that actually works, about $1, and a bottle you probably already own. So before the first hard freeze, Pull it off the shelf, foam test it on a cut potato, and write the date on the label in pencil. Then tell me in the comments what year was already on it. A man who checks his own kit doesn't need anybody's list, including this one. If this changed what you keep in your bag, subscribe. We run one of these breakdowns every week, and there's a lot more sitting on that shelf that needs the same honest look. And drop a comment below with the oldest date you find written in pencil on your own bottle. I'm curious how many of you have been storing water